And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in the world. It's I, John D, and Konika, a.k.a. And Too Much Podcast. Good morning, my love. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic, to be honest. I'm on break. I'm off this entire week. So I'm looking forward to creating content and spending time with the family since we got so much more time together. What does your week look like?
Yeah, I work. I work Monday to Wednesday. And then Thursday through Sunday, I'm all y'all's. So
no doubt. Well, we'll still be able to bother you those first few days. Maybe
definitely locking the door.
We can have some lunch.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Wow. You know, for you to say that so quickly, like, how do us bothering you make you want to lock? Well, me bothering you, I can understand maybe a child or two, but
yeah. Well, you know, I imagine that Darius is gonna want to show me a video that he's watched on. That's his favorite thing to do. He'll come and ask you to stop whatever you're doing to watch whatever made him laugh, and then Dallas will come in to tell me something sarcastic or history focused, and I still have work to do. So when you guys are off, it's like I love having y'all around, but when I have to focus, and you know, I've had a hard time focusing, and I'm working on that with my multitasking, but a lot of conversation and asking me questions while I'm trying to manage other tasks is really hard.
I got you. Well, we're getting closer to the finish line of at least being back to balanced, aren't we?
Yeah. I'm doing much better now.
That's good. So, anything on your mind today?
Yeah. There are a few things, but I guess so. I heard this guy. He was talking to young men, and he was saying to them, the closest thing you will ever get to unconditional love is the love of a good mother. And as a mom, I felt two ways about that. I felt like that's beautiful to have this feeling that mothers give this unconditional love, because everybody paints moms like that. Unconditional love, the one you could run to. And I want to be that person for our kids.
Yeah.
Right? I do agree with that definition. However, having worked in social work and seeing kids in foster care, sometimes at the hands of their mother's decisions or as a result of their mother's inability to provide that unconditional love, if they feel like their mother couldn't even provide that type of love, there are a couple things. If you think that's unconditional love and it resulted in that, how does that really define it for kids as they grow?
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you understand that the way your mother loves you is not healthy, does that speak the message to you that you are not capable of being loved? If the one who delivered you and brought you into the world can't provide you that unconditional love, are you worthy of, deserving of, will you ever find that kind of love? And then if there were three hands, I would say on the third hand, how does that form our view of fathers? I know how we talk about fathers a lot, and we make them like a backup human for the kids. But it teaches young men that they don't have to be the source of unconditional love. It teaches young women that they can dole it out, but if they don't get it back, that's okay. Like, there's so much that goes on with that. And I know that you do your best to be like 100% father in with the kids. And so I guess it feels good to hear those things if you're a good mother.
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't have a good mother or you're not a good mother, what does that mean? Like, are we painting kids into a corner?
So that's I guess I've had a mix of emotions listening to it, but overall I don't believe in the statement because, like you said, if the mother didn't know how, or you just wasn't exposed to a mother that could show you, does that mean you just miss out on the idea of unconditional love? And I can say this, that I believe that in my 45 years of life, you've shown me more about love than any group of people, including my mother. And I was just thinking about my mother. Like, I know in the beginning when I was young, the love was different. You know, it was almost like survival type love, like this is my baby. Mm-hmm. But as we've got older, we grew apart. I know that she still loves me, but I can see in some of the things she says, the immaturity in her, that she hasn't accepted accountability of just not knowing enough herself. Mm-hmm. So when I say that, I'm saying that my mother can't teach me unconditional love because not only that, like we don't even speak each other's language enough for us to understand her. Well, I wouldn't be able to understand her unconditional part. But when I'm with you, to me, I feel like I've learned so many different ways of emotions when it comes with you. And even with myself, from our journey alone. And you've taught me, to me, like I'm completely vulnerable to you. Like I feel like you know any and everything about me. So to me, for me to give you that, I feel like that's the unconditional love part, because I was willing to give you my darkest secrets, knowing that there was a possibility you couldn't take it and then you could walk away. But by you staying, to me, I was like, that's unconditional love, because I can't do any worse than I've already done. Like my mother, I don't know if she could take my darkest secrets, and I wouldn't want to even give her that anyway. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like we never had the relationship where, you know, I could tell my mother everything. We never had that. Yeah. So I feel like our relationship that we've created, you shown me what it was. Like literally my darkest secrets, you know, that I can think of. And like I said, in my head, there was an option or opportunity for you to leave, but for you to not leave, that just shows that there was another level of love for somebody could have for somebody. You feel that?
Yeah, I do. And I guess that's one of those things. One of the things I think when you talk to your mom and you talk about her taking accountability for her place in everything, it's interesting because when you talk about your mom, you always talk about how she didn't grow up with her mother. Correct. Her mother passed away when she was much younger. And so it's not to say you're horrible or you were horrible because you're a horrible person, but understanding that, Mom, these are the mistakes that were made, but I get it because you didn't have anybody to guide you. But and I think a lot of people, they can't get past that part where there's you did something wrong, but I see it as because of this. Yes. And it makes it where all the weight isn't on you. It almost, if someone could take that information, if she could hear that, she would understand why a lot of the decisions she made were based on an adult. Yes. In her life. Even when she recounts her relationship, like what she remembers of her father and her mother, you can tell she was really young because she doesn't remember much at all. Just real, like, basic points. And I think that one of the things that we're learning to do when we're talking about how someone may have wronged us or impacted us, we're trying so much more to say, either asking them to explain to us why they feel that way. Like, let's find out where that came from, because it's not because you're a bad person.
Yeah.
It's because the culmination of all of your experiences made you feel like this decision was acceptable. But it's so hard for people to get past that initial part of saying, this is what you did.
Yeah.
And I feel like now, especially with the kids, the kids will ask us questions about our life, especially Dallas. Dallas is trying to figure out everything about everything right now. But we always frame it with understanding what took place before that impacted now. Like, I didn't make this decision because I felt like it. I remember when we were younger, you remember be like, why you do that? Because I felt like it.
Yeah.
Now, like, we make it a real point to say to them, well, you have to understand where I came from. Well, you have to understand what I saw.
Yeah.
So then they can understand that their decisions are not solely, like, don't just think it came out of just you. Let's talk about where it came from. Because if you can figure that out, you can fix so many of your own behaviors and remodel some of your reactions to people.
Absolutely.
Because now you get it. And I think that's one of the big things that, to simplify it, it's like explaining to somebody why these things are happening is so important. And when he talks to you a lot about, because Dallas is always talking about our youth, when he's in on these conversations and he's talking to you, you always give him a broader perspective. Darius, this is happening because our mom did this, or our dad did that, and my grandparents did this and did that. And that's why. So I think it's so important to connect the dots to why things are happening. It's not because of you.
Correct.
Like, it's because of this. This is what took place.
You're the result of the several things that's already happened.
So many things. This isn't you standing alone on what just happened.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of things that, I'm not saying people aren't responsible for their behaviors, but I do think that you're so much more forgiving of yourself, but also so much more gentler with other people and mindful of your behavior when you understand the why behind whatever is happening.
Understanding creates the empathy.
Yeah. And I think that it's so important that we stop, to bring it back to the original thing we were talking about. It's important to stop putting everything on unconditional love and a good mother, because sometimes the mother's not going to be able to do it. And in your case, there is unconditional love somewhere.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I think that with all of us, there will be unconditional love somewhere. That's the hope.
Yeah.
But whether or not your mom is capable of giving you this unconditional love, that's not the end of the road for people.
Correct.
And it's also not, I guess, me thinking from the kid's perspective, it doesn't say anything about who you are or what you deserve as far as somebody loving you or caring for you.
Definitely.
But I do think that it plays out when we're talking about relationships and as they get older and what they feel like they deserve and what they feel like they should be giving out to other people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I remember when I was in college, we had just met, and you were a handful, no lie. But one of my friends was like, Konika, you are the woman of 1,000 chances. Like, I don't really know what somebody has to do to make you stop. And I used to just say, I mean, when I'm finished with somebody, I'm finished, and that's it. And I don't know what it's gonna be. I don't know what's gonna make me walk away. But when I'm done, I'm done. It can't be because somebody else told me to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And
you had to understand.
Yeah, and I had to feel like there was no way for me. One of the things about you and I is that I understood your background, and a lot of my struggle with you was based on your aversion to commitment. Mm-hmm. And because I understood why, it gave, like, I had so much more slack to give you, and that maybe it shouldn't have been what I was doing, but that goes back into women getting that idea that we have to be the source of unconditional love.
Yeah.
And the idea of ride or die type thing, that used to really be big when we were younger, being ride or die. And at this point, a lot of people are saying, I don't want to be ride or die. Like,
it doesn't make sense to be ride or die for somebody who can't reciprocate.
Yeah.
And like, to me, I feel like this, just listening to you. If a man knew what he was supposed to be doing, the woman would become that anyway. Like, but if a man doesn't present that, like a lot of times a woman feel like I'm a ride or die because they like them or they do these things, but they never showed anything to get that behavior from the woman. And
yeah.
And most men don't know how to do it, because just thinking about the way that I view life, like, to me, I was like, it was all about just getting the most by doing the least. And even in that, like, I was all about that. Like, I didn't understand why you would be vulnerable to a woman to the point where she could hurt you. Like, so, like, that was the biggest thing. I just, I guess the looking back in my childhood from my father crying, I was like, there's no way I would want to be in a situation like that, because I feel like he couldn't operate as a person.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I don't ever want to, like, my body just breaks down because, I can't think because I made whatever decision I made to get to this point. So I was just like, why would I even play with that game? So I'll just stay away for it. This is the way that I'm approaching things, because I don't want to ever look like this over here.
Oh, little Mr. Give the least Larry. Don't be coming over here.
But you know what's
Let
so
me
crazy?
See what I can squeeze by with.
I was given more of what men weren't given to women, and women thought that John is giving relationship ideas, like he's doing this. Well, I was like, that's what I thought you're supposed to. It makes you happy. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to give all of those things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the unconditional part, where I remember I used to, like, I don't believe in unconditional love. I'm like, look, you got me here. I need you to keep doing what you did to keep me being there. And I didn't understand the unconditional part until I guess I was completely vulnerable. And I just feel like most men wouldn't ever feel like that, because deep down they feel like the woman is going to take advantage of them. They think that they're like, I don't know. I don't know why men feel that way, but majority, like, I ain't doing that. Like, she's not going to do that. Like, it's always something that makes them feel like the woman is out to get them. And like I said earlier, where I am with you, I'm willing to do whatever I can to keep you happy, because I feel like by intentionally doing that, you're a different person. You're a nicer person. To me, it's not like...
That was mean.
Well, it's, if you treat people good, you get a better version of them. So, like, you don't bother me. So why would I treat you in a way for me not to make you feel the way that I normally feel? So if I'm always happy, I can make you happier. So men don't look at it like that. They feel like things make them happy, not their environment or the relationship they have from what I've seen. And even like before I got to this point, like, I can't say that I was happy with you, like, being in the room.
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes we'll be in the room, but we'd be in two different places. It wasn't I wasn't unhappy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't you. I wasn't happy because you were in the room. Now, when I'm in the room with you, I know I'm happy because you're in the room with me. It's a different perspective. And like, if you looked at the relationship where you can get to that point where you enjoy legitimately your company right next to you at any period, you walk different. It's not too many things that can knock you off.
Yeah.
You know, because you know what your safe place is. It's like almost you stay away from the bull.
Yeah.
You more so like, so when you do see it, you can recognize like, oh, you know, I remember being there. But now it's like, you're my baseline of happiness. If I'm at home, you and I are talking about you and I, this house, parenting, the future, finance, anything. And I feel like it's bringing us closer and closer where it becomes even more unconditional. Like if anything comes out of somewhere, you know, like that don't even sound like John. And if he did it, I can almost guarantee he can explain why that occurred. And he's going to make it make sense. You know, that's unconditional when you be like, before you react like, what?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, like that doesn't sound like him. I would like to hear it from him. But before you be like, that sound like something like he would, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to me, I feel like that when you get there, it's a different piece. And that's where I am with you for sure. I know you're not there with me, but I know I'm going to get there with you because I can already see you unraveling. Because I don't like, you know, there's still parts of you like unlayering.
Okay.
Like the core of you is still protected by your experiences when like what looked like something like, nah. So it's just, I can see it becoming softer. Oh. Like just some of the things you say. I'm like, wow, she's never said that. Like you've said groups of words and new sentences about me that doesn't sound as, you know, like lovey-dovey in the beginning, but it sounds like more heartfelt.
Okay. Yeah, I was a sap in the beginning, wasn't I? If you read some of the things if y'all read some of the stuff I wrote to John, I read it and I was like, what in the hell was I talking
And look,
about?
I'm telling you, so like you kind of,
it was
like,
so ridiculous.
So you kind of fed into my ego too. I'm like, this woman is writing like this.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I can't even see how she comes up with words like this for me because it was weird because like the responses.
Yeah, I was a weirdo schmeardo. I definitely read some stuff and I was like, why? So I could see why you would question me when we were younger. Like, why are you talking like
for real? Like I'm like, and to me, I wasn't doing anything more than anything. I was just. That's what I said. The things that I was doing apparently was the distraction of like, if your man do this, that mean he really like you. Yeah. I did like you, but I didn't like you the way you were writing to her. Yeah. I was like, I can't put words like this together.
Yeah. I was off on some stuff right there. That was, I think that I was, number one, in love with the idea of loving somebody. And that's one of the things I noticed when I retrace some of the conversations I had with my friends at that age versus now. Like, I was in love with the idea of being in love with someone and feeling those ways about them. It didn't help that the music back then was just super lovey. I was all into that too. But I was really over the top. I think the other thing that I recognize is that my dad I didn't really see him be lovey toward my mom, except on Valentine's Day. It was weird. My mom said the worse he became as a husband, the bigger the cards got. You remember when they used to give you the big old cards?
Oh, no, I don't, but I remember you telling me about.
In the stores, they used to have Valentine's Day cards that were like huge, big old cards. And my mom be like, every year, the candy box gets bigger and the card gets bigger. And I used to laugh when she would talk about it. But my dad was interesting. He was somebody that the smile, the laugh, sometimes he would like dance with me in the living room. It was just like he loved me. I know he loved me. And as hardcore as my dad was, he was very loving to me. And I just figured that if I loved you hard enough and I softened you up, you would be that same thing for me, because you reminded me so much of him personality-wise. And later on, I figured out that my vision or my perception of my relationship with my dad was not the reality. And I think time went on and I realized that it was the same with you. Like, I wasn't in reality about any of those things. And that's probably why, once all of it came to the point where, what do you say in, what's that movie you love when at the end, the guy, all the
Usual Suspects?
Yes. And you've been living in this world the entire time, and then all of a sudden something triggers you, and everything you look around, you realize that all of the messages were sitting there telling you the same thing.
Yeah.
And you were missing the message over and over again. Mm-hmm. That is exactly how I felt about relationships with men, and looking at my relationship with my dad, looking at the relationships and the things that I endured when I was coming up, when I was practicing relationships with high school boyfriends and what have you. And then when it got to you, you was like a King Koopa. Mm-hmm. And I realized all the things I had been missing. And part of, you're talking about I'm coming back around, and there are different ways that I'm expressing myself now. I had to take accountability for the love bombing that I was doing on you, and why I was doing it, and almost why I was as hurt as I was by what was happening, because everything was in front of me. I knew that in our situation, you had even told me it was conditional. And in my head, I had decided if I worked hard enough, he'd get to where I am. So I just need to work hard enough. I just need to do this more. I just need to do that more. I need to say these words. I need to do this. And in the end, there was a time where I was trying to figure out why I wasn't deserving. And it helped that we're at this part of our lives where we are drawing lines to where our behaviors came from. Because if I only had my previous understanding and I was looking at you and standing only on the fact that you were you and you made whatever decisions you wanted, and I was me and I made all the decisions I wanted, and we were independent of anything else, it would have hurt like hell.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because it's like, it's like, then it's, they did it because they don't love me. Because if you loved me, you would have never done that.
Yeah.
But when you understand that the way I'm looking at it is because this is how my relationship was with my dad, and this is what I used to see, and so that's my expectation. And even though I wasn't saying it to him, I expected this of him. Like, I transferred that fantasy onto you. But at the same time, it was helpful to know your background, to know that it wasn't because you didn't love me.
Yeah.
But it's definitely how we interpreted our lives and what's acceptable and what's not, and what we will deal with and what not. And to be honest, just so everybody know, I remember when I met John said, I'm never getting married. I don't have no kids. I don't believe in that unconditional love. Like, you told me everything, and I was like, I'm sorry, I speak Russian. But what I understand is I like them and I want them, so I'm gonna have them. And relationships are hard. People are complex, and we are the result of so many generations of relationships and mistakes and reinterpretations. Like, my misinterpretation of my relationship with my dad impacted my relationship with you. And had we not gotten to a point where we're more aware of ourselves and our background's impact on us, that would pour in today and pour into Dallas.
Absolutely.
And I don't want that.
Well, I mean, it's over.
Yeah.
Like they have a different animal that we don't know about because where we are. And like at the end of the day, like the best part that they get between our relationship is that how healthy it is. Even like when we raise our voice, it's still way more healthier than it's ever been. And they get to see how two adults can still have a conversation without one person going crazy or slamming doors or anything like that.
Yeah.
So to me, Dallas sees how a man is supposed to respond. Day gets to see how she should respond to a man in a situation, and vice versa, like the expectation of the opposite sex. Like nobody should be going off on you, making you feel less than because they're louder or bigger than you, you know?
Yeah. Your voice being louder does not mean you're righter.
Correct.
You are not righter because you're louder. Yeah, I agree with that. I hope that what we think we're offering or modeling, it really goes across the way that we intend. Yeah.
For sure. Anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
No. Hey, everybody. Shout out to y'all.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. It's the holiday season. The weather's getting a little nippy in the good state of Michigan. But we're enjoying the weather that we have. Y'all make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. GATA. Get after that action, or that action will get after you. Be great on purpose. Boom.